I hope you won't mind if I begin with you, because I got to say, we cover the space pretty closely, and I would argue that the opinions about whether or not true Senate reform is likely this year is really split. Where are you right now?
I'm very optimistic, frankly. I think that given the Democratic majorities in the House and the Senate, given Leader Schumer's comments earlier this week, I don't think there's any question that a number of pieces of legislation have a greater opportunity for passage than we've seen in any time in the past.
How can you give us a better sense on timing and sort of what gives, I guess, not just the vote, the momentum, but the realization that it's time to have a vote at all? I mean, where does this stack in the list of priorities? Because there's a lot of other things the Senate is consumed with.
Well, there are two or three things that give me cause for optimism. First of all, as you know, the House has acted a couple of times already on this important legislation. And so they've already set the precedent. You see wider and wider interest in the states. A number of states have passed meaningful changes in their legislation and in the laws that exist within the states. And then I think there's also an increasing realization that there's an economic opportunity here. So given all of that, given the fact that a lot of this legislation has already been the subject of hearings and greater bipartisan support, my feeling is that while it may not be soon, it may not be in the immediate few weeks, sometime during this legislative session, you're going to see action on two or three important cannabis bills.
So in light of that, Kyle, I mean, if and when we see decriminalization federally here in the U.S., then you see actual legalization take root as well. How quickly could you actually ramp your operations stateside?
Well, it depends how the regulations unfold. In some degree, we could unveil products immediately. We are one of the largest producers of cannabis outside the United States, 2 million square feet. We're right up there with some of the other large producers like Tilray and Aphria. So I think we could launch products immediately. Now, if the regulation comes out in maybe a more contorted manner, which has restrictions on imports or interstate commerce, we might have to adjust our strategy. But I think we could be in the United States very fast. In fact, this week we announced our first commercial import of CBD into the United States. So in some senses, it's almost already beginning.
Yeah, I wonder what you think those regulations potentially should look like. And I ask because I know you also operate in places like Canada. We've seen some challenges, some perhaps unexpected regulatory-driven pitfalls in the Canadian market right now. So what are the lessons that could be learned?
Well, I think, Clever Leaves exists for a very simple reason, and that is to bring cannabinoid-based therapies to as many patients and customers as possible. So, from a social advocacy side, I think that, the governments of the United States and Canada should encourage as much product innovation as possible. We are one of the few EU GMP certified cannabis producers in the planet. There's only about 3 others, by the way I measure it, who have those same capabilities, and they're all in Canada. And if we can bring that expertise, those high-quality production systems, I think the consumers and patients will benefit. So I'm in favor of a system that allows as much innovation, as much competition as possible, and doesn't try to restrict cannabis and say, hey, cannabis grown in California, that shouldn't be able to be shipped to Massachusetts. And similarly, high-quality cannabis pharmaceutical ingredients from Colombia, those could be sold at drugstores in the United States as well.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.